Hello, making a new video with the completion of my KV-2. In my earlier video, I had the kit fully assembled and base coated with the Russian green. I've also had done some work on the road wheels and track, just simply because, installing the fender was going to restrict my access to what detailing I could do. But it wasn't full detail, it was just kind of the basic, getting the tracks painted and stuff like that was kind of like a base coat, I guess you could say. So since then, I've been working on this kit, doing the weathering, which is my favorite part of the whole model building process. So this is where I take my time and I just kind of get lost in the whole getting this thing detailed and stuff. I generally got some pretty good music going on or something, and like I said, I just love this part, and with all the time on my hand, it was kind of like, hey, I wasn't rushed to do this. I know I've seen some of the videos where, they take a little, sponge and they kind of dab it around and, Instamatic, half an hour later, they're done doing all their weathering on the vehicle. I took weeks doing this, and it wasn't like I was in a hurry or that I actually needed that much time, but I would sit here at the desk and work on it for a few hours a day with other things going on. And then, to be honest with you, after, several hours, I just had to get up and go do something else. I started seeing double. A lot of the work that I did was looking through a magnifier. So, yeah, it gets a little crazy when I'm already wearing glasses to begin with. So, anyhow, as I pan over, here's kind of the finished product. And I'm using my iPhone, not the latest generation, so as far as the detail is concerned, I don't know how this really doesn't come out. I kind of looked at some of my videos and pictures, and it's just really hard to kind of say, yeah, that's how it looks. Just seeing it in real just adds it doesn't do it justice. But I'm not bragging or anything. This is just my style, and I mean, somebody might like it and some people don't, and it's like might be like overdone as far as details concerned. And I've thought about that a couple times, throughout this process, like, hey, I really didn't want to get that involved, and but I did, and everything I seem to do kind of comes out the same way, where it's just looks like it's went through the entire war and then through maybe an additional war or two afterwards. So, but that's what I like to do. There's no way that I can settle for right out of the box basic colors. I just can't handle that. Not that my time in the military was spent, with armor or anything like that, but I did see a number of things out in the field and stuff that was, just subjected to the weather and stuff. And it wasn't necessarily that the paint was falling off, but, you start climbing on things, you start to leave a little trail of dirt and stuff, and things do get scuffed up, especially, with the cables and stuff, so that was kind of my idea. I beat up the storage cases. You got one on the left side, and then there's a couple on the right side. And I kind of went through beating those up. I did that kind of early on, and then placing them on the vehicle without, essentially following through with all the weathering. It really did stick out like a sore thumb, and kind of had me kind of scratching my head saying, hey, I think I went too far. As far as the road wheels, I didn't add any crazy mud or anything that was like caked onto the wheels and stuff like that. I will explain here shortly my process here, but I wanted to, you know, be able to still see all the detail. I didn't want to cover anything up with a bunch of goop and stuff, and that was just my style. So my process here, you know, some people, you know, go through and they invest in all those products to, you know, do weathering and stuff like that. And I don't know, I've been doing this since I was a kid, and you know, there was very little available at the time, and you know, I guess I'm kind of stuck with that mentality and stuff. So my process for weathering was, again, I started out with the base coat. I used Mission Model paints. Here was my base coat. Runs really well. I use, you know, just basically all the components for mixing the paint, all Mission Models. Acrylic, really easy to clean up. I did all the painting right here in this office. Didn't really have any kind of issues. And again, things literally clean out with water. I use some of the thinner, and it's just, you know, nothing toxic, no terrible smells, and that's how I did it. So after I got done with the base coat, my first approach on weathering was to basically dry brush the entire body of the tank, and I use the ammo dry brushing paint. I love this stuff. It comes in all different colors. I just happened to use like a light olive. Wanted to go with something that was lighter than what I was using. And, you know, just that whole dry brushing process, which, you know, that's, you know, not a lot of paint, and just kind of subtly, you know, kind of brushing it in. And that's where I kind of got this other tone. And, of course, on the high relief edges, you know, it started to kind of collect up some of that paint. So that was my process. I went around the whole vehicle. That took quite a while. Got that done, and then basically went in and started doing my panel lining using the old Tamiya, you know, panel liner, black, and using basically a mixing cup. I would take some of the content out, and then using a very fine tip brush, I would just subtly, you know, add the liner to all the recesses, very strategically, using that applicator that comes with it. You know, you're gonna get that stuff all over the place. And, you know, yeah, you can wipe it down and stuff, but, you know, I just didn't want to take the risk. I've had some situations in the past where all the paint just kind of came up, because, you know, acrylics is what I'm working with. This is an enamel. It's thinned out, so just trying to not have a catastrophe on my hand. So after doing the panel liner, basically I went in and started kind of chipping away, scratching up the vehicle. Mission Model, tire black. It's a very, well, wore out black, a light black, if you can say that. But I just went around and basically every little piece around there that I wanted to scratch up or put some wear on there, that's that black that you can kind of see through all the other stuff. Again, this process not done in an hour sitting. It took me, you know, days upon days of just doing certain sections and then coming back and doing some more. And then somehow I just, you know, was like, how do I approach it? I had done the body first with my overall weathering, and the turret, you know, gun included, everything. You know, I kind of did that on the second part. And I'm kind of glad that I did, because working with the body, you know, it was kind of like I could make my mistakes, kind of recover. And then once I had kind of like a process that was working, I could just simply apply it to the actual turret. Again, throughout doing this, you know, I kept on saying to myself, okay, how wore out do you want it? And, you know, once you start, it's like, oh, a little bit more, a little bit more. So, you know, some could argue that I went overboard. Sometimes I think I did, but I don't know. I just like the effect of it, you know. Tried to imagine these things used. I mean, you know, right at the beginning of the war, here's what you had. And, you know, they lasted until, I guess, they were all wore out or destroyed and stuff. And, you know, who knows, man? Maybe this guy just happened to kind of get through, you know, a number of battles, and that's how he looked. I don't know. I like the effect. So after I got done with the chipping and stuff, then I went in and said, okay, let's start doing something with adding a little bit of rust and stuff. Now, with the rust, what I did is I used another MIG product, which is Washable Rust. Now, that's kind of cool because I put a little bit in my little cup here, tray, and it basically had a really bright red to it. And then when I took a brush and kind of dipped it into water off to the side and stuff, it would just basically bring that dark red into a very thinned out, lighter color. And I could actually, you know, depending on how diluted I had it, you know, that's pretty much where I started. And in some areas where I thought I had to go full bore, you know, without any water, you know, I kind of used that. But very, very small, tiny sections did I try to kind of practice that. Let's see. I'm trying to talk and use this camera at the same time without there being too much movement. Okay, so in this area, you know, that's where I probably went, you know, into this whole thing where stuff was getting trapped, water, moisture, and kind of really kind of piling on the rust here. Let's see. So after I got done with that, pretty much the rest of the weathering, I used pastels. I used colored chalk, and excuse me a moment. So I've had this kit of pastels, not oil pastels. Do not use oil pastels, but basically I've had these for years. And some of the chalks you can see on the edge here, I use those two, the lighter and the darker color. There's a black, okay, so a little bit of white. And those were my primary colors. And what I would do is basically take some sandpaper and just kind of rub them until they were in a powdered form. And then what I was doing next is I would take a paintbrush, dip it in water, and basically run it through this powder and stuff. And then depending on, you know, I'd have it pretty diluted and stuff. And then I would just kind of apply it. And really the best example is on the track itself. And forgive me for my light, but see if I can kind of get in here. But on the whole, you know, I tried to go in there with some different washes and stuff. And this is where I'm saying it's like, hey, you know, I kind of got old school, you know. I know there's a bunch of products, and eventually I'll use them. You know, it's just that, you know, they're not cheap and stuff. And then, of course, you know, they want to package this stuff where you got to get a whole, you know, group of that. And you know, and it's like 50 bucks a pop to get this whole different variety of washes and stuff. And then it's like for a certain particular region of the world and stuff. And so if you want to do something else other than Russia, you got to go and get another bunch of stuff. And I was like, you know what, let me just, you know, I saw the applications in some other videos, and I saw where it was basically a powder, and then they were mixing it with some type of liquid, like a thinner or something like that. And I thought, you know what, let me just practice here with some water and stuff. So, you know, this is the effect that I had using, basically, I went with the lightest color first, and then I kind of progressed to, well, there's not much left, but my middle color, and then basically the dark color. And I kind of use that variety to where, you know, I'd go light, medium, and dark throughout the rest of the vehicle. And to my surprise, some of the rust and stuff, let's see if I can kind of get in here. Whoops. So this is kind of like a really good example of basically using this, and just with using the chalks, I was able to kind of really show some good oxidation in a couple of areas. Of course, you know, didn't want to get too crazy, but maybe I had already. And that's kind of where the majority, where I was telling you earlier about using that rust, that wash, you know, I think I got most of my effect just using the chalk. So one of the things that I also use the black for, and I probably will always continue to use this approach, but the exhaust, you know, basically I kind of dry brushed it, you know, to where, you know, this has always been a technique in early model building. You know, it's like you had like exhaust or gun exhaust, you know, from the shells blasting and whipping across the wing and stuff. So you'd get a brush and kind of mix it up in the chalk, you know, dry, and then just kind of put in several applications. It took a while to get that buildup, but you know, that's what I knew. I didn't know how well it was going to work if I tried to do it, you know, wet. So that was kind of a different technique, and basically using the washes, that's how I did the buildup here for the back. I tried to kind of emphasize the back as far as getting it all really dirty. And so a lot of things going on, and over several days, just kind of going back and forth, you know, like what was working, what wasn't working. And on the tracks and on the road wheels, I kind of put that on there, kind of went back and forth. Again, this stuff isn't permanent, so, you know, it was easy to touch up if I needed to. But kind of wrapping up here, after I got everything to where it was now, I basically took some flat lacquer and applied it to the vehicle to seal everything in. So the model itself's probably been through 2 or 3 different coatings of clear flat. This was the one thing that I kind of squawked about earlier, is that for this Russian version, there was absolutely no decals. You know, it would have been nice to put some propaganda stuff on there, you know, to throw on the side of the vehicle and stuff. Nothing. All they did was give you this vehicle marker that was basically a full diamond, but I went in there and chipped it up so some of the paint wore off. So of course, you know, that whole technique of, you know, trying to get kind of that glossy coat, applying the decal, and then going in with clear coat, you know, that's where it probably got the first batch. I will say that some of the rubbing that I was doing with the dry brushing, especially on the storage panels, it did start to collect a pretty good sheen just from the rubbing and stuff. So having the clear coat really helped make things, I don't know, for me, the duller you can make it look, the more realistic it is. So, okay, another thing I wanted to mention, towing cables. I had those already made. This side probably could have been a little bit shorter. And again, I didn't want to have these things just kind of like willy-nilly. So I used some glue and tried to tack it down to where I thought, you know, gravity would basically kind of take place and have it kind of situated onto the surface. So again, with that, I, you know, tried to kind of weather that out, and, you know, wasn't like full, you know, paint on there. I don't know if I had said that before, but really disappointed with the figures that came with the vehicle. You know, this is one of those new tooled variations, you know. So I had done some other videos with Tamiya's new tooling and stuff, and I had to basically say that they really improved upon the figures that come with the kit. I know some people don't want to mess with them because, you know, it's like, you know, how much skill do you have painting figures and stuff? So, but I just happened to notice that, hey, these are pretty good. You know, they kind of are almost on the same par as resin, although they're not. So, you know, resin figures, if I can get them, yes, absolutely. But they come with a price. They're not really as available as I'd like them to be. And I like using Alpine figures. And I just thought, hey, I'd give it a shot because I used them in an earlier model and had some success. But the problem here was, instead of the figures being in solid pieces, they were in halves. And I thought, man, I haven't done this since like the old Revell days. And, you know, I glued them, the halves together, and there was gaps, and it was like I said, like the old Revell days. And I was very surprised that Tamiya would actually, you know, do such a thing. So I had a lot of problems. I had some success, I guess, with the driver gunner guy, but the tank commander, which is basically that dude right there, I tried gluing his halves together, and it's just really, you know, it was like, really, I gotta fill in some gaps and stuff. I'm not even sure I do that anymore with just about anything, just because of the quality of fit and stuff. But, you know, I was like, wow, I guess I'm gonna have to do it. And as I was trying to clamp the dude down, one of my clamps, the plastic portion on the edge had worn out, so I actually had bare metal. And without realizing it, when I came back, I noticed the guy's chest had this big indentation where the metal had just kind of cut in, put a crease in his chest. So I was like, all right, I'm not using this guy. So I don't know. Didn't know where to put him anyways. But again, you know, kind of disappointed. I would have liked to have had some figures that were basically in other kits, whole pieces. And again, from my other video, just really griping at the lack of detail interior-wise. So I would have loved to have a tank commander at the top of this, you know, with the hatch open, but totally empty in there. And maybe later on, and maybe they're just counting on all these other manufacturers that make us accessories and stuff to build, you know, engines and gun assemblies and stuff like that. But it's sad. I really, you know, when you have this monstrosity here, you know, you're just dying to, I mean, it's always been my curiosity, like, wow, I wonder what it was like in there and stuff. And there's just nothing, there's nothing there to kind of even contemplate what it looked like in there. But Oh, well, that's, you know, that was the whole point. You know, the reason why I built this is just having seen pictures or maybe some footage, you know, old black and white footage, you know, and I was like, wow, you know, what a box, you know. It's like, who designed this? You know, it just seems totally unorthodox and stuff. But I had to do it. All of a sudden it came out and I was like, oh, I just have to do this. All right, well, anyways, just wanted to share this with you. Let me know what you think. You know, I had some questions earlier with the track fit, but, you know, I'm not a YouTube expert. I'm just trying to share with anybody that might be contemplating making this in the future and stuff, and just kind of sharing, hey, here's my work. You know, like it or not like it, just trying to share it out there. All right, well, thank you for viewing. Have a great day. Bye.